Tensions are rising once again in the South China Sea. The Philippine Defense Secretary made a fiery statement, directly criticizing China's recent actions in the disputed waters. Many fear that a single incident could spark a much larger crisis. He warned that the Philippines will not back down. This is just the latest in a series of escalating confrontations. Fishermen worry about their safety, and the South China Sea remains a crucial route for ships and livelihoods. The Philippine Defense Secretary delivered a strong message, calling China's actions unjustified, illegal, and dangerous. He accused Chinese ships of blocking Philippine boats, shining military-grade lasers, and ramming supply vessels. "We will not allow anyone to bully us in our own backyard," he declared. He urged the international community to support the Philippines' right to defend its territory. For many, his speech was a sign of national pride and resolve. The South China Sea dispute is a major global issue. Several countries, including the Philippines, China, Vietnam, Malaysia, and Brunei, claim parts of this sea. China claims almost the whole area, using the 9-dash line, but international law disagrees. For the Philippines, the West Philippine Sea is vital, with islands and fishing grounds used for generations. In 2016, an international court ruled for the Philippines, but China rejected the decision. The dispute is about resources: fish, oil, gas, and safe passage for ships, making the region a flashpoint. Why does this stretch of ocean matter so much? First, it is a superhighway for ships. Each year, more than $3 trillion worth of goods pass through these waters. Oil tankers, container ships, and fishing boats from all over the world travel this route. If trouble breaks out, it could disrupt trade for many countries, not just those nearby. Second, the South China Sea is rich in fish and natural resources. For millions of people in the Philippines, fishing is their way of life. They rely on these waters to feed their families and earn a living. There are also oil and gas under the sea that could help power cities and industries. Third, it is about national pride and security. For countries like the Philippines, defending their part of the sea is a matter of sovereignty. People feel strongly about what belongs to them. Leaders are under pressure to show they can protect their land and people. Finally, the South China Sea is important for the environment. The coral reefs and islands are home to unique wildlife. If tensions lead to overfishing or damage, it could hurt the ocean and future generations. The standoff is not just words and press releases. Real confrontations are happening at sea. On many days, Philippine Coast Guard ships and smaller fishing boats sail out to supply their outposts or to fish. Very often, they find themselves shadowed by larger, more heavily armed Chinese vessels. These encounters can be tense and, honestly, pretty frightening. Philippine boats have reported being blocked or chased by Chinese ships. Sometimes, Chinese vessels use water cannons or shine bright lasers at the crews, making it hard to see or steer. There have even been incidents where ships have bumped into each other, risking serious accidents. Imagine the scene: choppy waters, gray skies, and two ships just meters apart. Voices are raised over loudspeakers, with each side ordering the other to leave. Filipino sailors stand firm, waving their flag and insisting they are in their own waters. The tension is so thick you can feel it in the air. These dangerous encounters can happen at any time. Both sides are careful not to fire weapons, but the risk of escalation is always there. Even a small mistake could lead to disaster. So, what does it mean when officials talk about illegal and aggressive actions? Well, in simple terms, it means doing things that break international rules or that threaten others. For instance, international law says each country has the right to control the seas up to 200 nautical miles from its coast, and that's called the Exclusive Economic Zone, or EEZ. China has, been accused of sending Coast Guard and militia ships into the Philippine EEZ. These vessels sometimes block or even ram Filipino boats, stopping them from fishing or bringing supplies to their troops. Using things like water cannons or lasers is considered aggressive because, honestly, it can injure people or damage ships. Another example is building artificial islands on reefs that are claimed by the Philippines. China has put up runways, docks, and even military bases on these islands. This kind of changes the nature of the dispute and really makes it harder to resolve things peacefully. These actions are called illegal because they go against international law, and aggressive because they put lives and property at risk. They create fear and uncertainty for those who work and live near the sea. The Philippines is responding in several ways. First, its leaders are speaking out loudly, making sure the world knows what is happening. The Defense Secretary and other officials regularly hold press conferences and send letters of protest to China. They are also working closely with allies, like the United States, Japan, and Australia, to get support. On the ground, the Philippine Coast Guard is increasing patrols. They're training more crews and getting new ships to help protect their waters. The government is also supporting fishermen, offering scholarships to their children and giving them equipment to help them fish safely. At the same time, the Philippines is careful to avoid war. Leaders say they want to solve the dispute through peaceful talks and international law. They remind everyone that ordinary people, fishermen, sailors, and families, will suffer most if fighting breaks out. By combining strong words, better equipment, and international cooperation, the Philippines hopes to defend its interests without causing more harm or fear. China has denied all accusations of wrongdoing. Chinese officials say their ships are only defending what they believe is their own territory. They accuse the Philippines of provoking trouble by bringing in outside allies and by publicizing incidents at sea. China says it wants peace but will not give up its claims. Other countries are, paying pretty close attention. The United States has repeated its support for the Philippines, saying that any attack on Filipino forces could lead to a response under their mutual defense treaty. Japan and Australia have also called for calm and for respect of international law. The European Union and United Nations have issued statements urging both sides to avoid violence. International observers worry about the risks. They know that one accident or misunderstanding could quickly turn into a larger conflict. At the same time, a lot of people believe that standing up to aggressive actions is the only way to keep the seas open and safe. The world's attention is fixed on the South China Sea. What happens here could shape international law, security, and trade for years to come. The South China Sea is more than just water and islands. It is a lifeline for millions, a symbol of sovereignty, and a test of international rules. If disputes are not managed, the consequences could be severe: lost livelihoods, damaged ecosystems, disrupted trade, or even war. That is why voices are rising, from leaders to ordinary citizens, calling for peace and justice. For Filipino families, the stakes are deeply personal. Will fishermen be safe? Will children inherit a sea full of life, or one scarred by conflict? For businesses, the question is whether ships can travel without fear. For the world, the issue is whether big and small nations will respect each other's rights. The Defense Secretary's bold words have sparked hope among many Filipinos. They want a future where their country stands tall, their seas are free, and all nations follow the rules. Yet, the path forward is uncertain and filled with risks. In the end, what happens in the South China Sea will affect not just maps, but the lives, dreams, and security of millions across Asia and the world.